Jaclyn. I'm a bookseller at This Is a Bookstore and Bookbug, and I have had a heck of a few months, as I imagine many of you have as well. I have not been able to bring myself to read for some time. I was really excited about reading Network Effect, and I've only gotten about this far in the 3 months that I've attempted to read it. I just wasn't quite in the right headspace for reading, and I couldn't get out of it with the anxieties I was experiencing, which kind of sucked because I love reading and I suddenly had time to do it, which is something I had been hoping for months and months. But all that changed with a little book called Mexican Gothic. Much of my regained enthusiasm for reading came about with other stuff, like getting to see more people and having the bookstore be open for people to browse in it again. But I do think some of the credit goes to this book because it was so excellent. It takes place in 1950s Mexico, which you might be able to surmise from the gorgeous dress on the cover, and it follows Noemi, who is this very, clever, snappy socialite who ends up going to this, mysterious mansion in the countryside to go and visit her cousin. Her cousin Catalina recently married into this high-status English family that lives in this mansion. They used to have a very productive silver mine in the area, which shut down under some spooky and mysterious circumstances. And as you might imagine, because it is a Gothic novel, strange things start sort of happening. There's a very eerie mood around the mansion. There are all of these arcane rules that the family makes Noemi follow, and she is pretty sure that her cousin Catalina is slowly going insane or being mistreated in some way, and she has to figure out what's going on while still staying in the good graces of this family. There's also some clear commentary going on as this very sharp and vibrant Mexican woman trying to make her way in the world is figuring out what's going on amid the decaying greed of Western colonialism that's still trying to keep a grip on her. But I never felt like it was trying to be overly preachy or hit me over the head with it. I was just sucked into the environment of the story and the dynamics between the characters, and then would take a step back and be oh, that's very interesting. It is absolutely never weighed down by sort of the big themes that are going on in the book. It always feels very concrete and present in a particular moment because the prose is just so it's just so good. Let me read a section because I think that you'll get what I mean. This is a dream sequence, so no spoilery stuff, but here we go. Noemi heard a heart beating, as loud as a drum, calling for her. It woke her up. Carefully, she ventured outside of her room to find the place where it was hiding. She felt it beneath her palm when she pressed her hand against the walls, felt the wallpaper grow slippery like a strained muscle, and the floor beneath her was wet and soft. It was a sore. A great sore she walked upon, and the walls were sores too. The wallpaper was peeling, revealing underneath sickly organs instead of brick or wooden boards, veins and arteries clogged with secret excesses. She followed the beating of the heart and a thread of red on the carpet, like a gash, a line of crimson, a line of blood, until she stopped in the middle of the hallway and saw the woman staring back at her. Ruth, the girl from the photograph. Ruth in a white dressing gown, her hair like a golden halo, her face bloodless. A slim alabaster pillar in the darkness of the house. Ruth held a rifle between her hands, and she stared at Noemi. They began walking together, side by side. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, even their breathing was identical. Ruth brushed a lock of hair away from her face, and Noemi brushed her hair too. The walls around them were glowing, a dim phosphorescence that nevertheless guided their steps, and the carpet underneath their feet was squishy. She noticed, too, markings on the walls that were made of flesh, traceries of fuzzy mold as if the house were an overripe fruit. The heart kept beating faster. You see how in that particular moment you're not thinking of the symbolism there, even though there's a lot going on. You're just enraptured in the scene, and that's what the entire book is like. To be clear, not all of it is look at this spooky thing that's happening. It's very sparing with scenes like that, and a lot of the scenes tend to be her exploring and trying to understand what's going on with this family, or her navigating the dynamics and finding out strange and weird things, like the patriarch of the house has some very weird ideas about eugenics, and like so-and-so's dad died at some point, but no one knows why. And all of these different elements that come together and you realize like what's really going on. And it feels like the most satisfying scene of like a detective novel where you're like, oh, of course, all the signs were there. And it's so good. Each one of the rules she has to follow, like not being able to talk during meals, not being able to smoke, not being able to leave the house, not being able to use hot water or electric lighting, all serve to make her feel like more trapped, but also are all like deeply connected to the thing that is happening. That comes together in an interesting way. As Noemi speaks with some of the family members and takes some trips that she's not supposed to go on into the town to try and get some medicine for her cousin, she finds out more by talking to the townsfolk about the history of the mine. All of the miners did die at some point of like a mysterious disease, but some people survived and you're not sure what. She gets these visions that appear to be from the past. That are very like, you're not sure what is actually something that happened, what is something that's like a strained vision brought on by like whatever spooky stuff is happening, but you do see all of the like elements laid out before you. And as it comes together, you realize how much of the darkness that is in this place is based upon like extreme mistreatment of women and their loss of agency, which is a little intense, but also to me, because it's in the context of something so clearly like supernatural and weird, feels a lot more like processable than something that is more like a realistic fiction. Especially for me as a woman, I don't like to read stuff about like this horrible thing happened to someone on a college campus or in a workplace. That bit of distance makes it more like more digestible in a way. And truly, I am not a fan of horror to begin with. I'm a fairly sensitive person. I don't like spooky stuff. But like the care with which this writer approached it, it meant that like every scene and every moment felt purposeful and never like grandiose or shock value or anything like that. But you do see like the ways that people have been mistreated throughout the history of this family and the history of this town are definitely trying to say something about the way that people have been mistreated in the world. And it does so in a way that's very sharp and just very well done. And I really want to reread this book, and I really want to like unpack all of the deep themes throughout. There's such strong imagery that takes place. Like, I want to be in high school so I can read this book and write a really good report on it. Like, I want to nerd out with motifs and stuff. Like, that's where I'm at with this. But I also want to stay up reading until 2 a.m. because I want to know what happens next. And to me, that is a sign of like an excellent, excellent book that can serve both the like analytical parts of my brain and the parts of my brain that want to like think about the world and the people in it and how we express those like thoughts and ideas, but also wants to find out like what's going to happen to this character, what is this character hiding, how are they going to resolve this, what is the mystery behind what's going on here, how is it going to end. And it just feels like every single scene is working towards so many different ends, but it feels so effortless at the same time. It's hard to put into words, but I absolutely loved it. This is an advanced reader's copy that I got, but I fully plan on getting the hardcover of this book because this cover is so gorgeous and I need it on my shelf. And also I want to be able to lend it to people because I want to like spread this story to as many people as possible because I think they will love it. If you also would like to get a copy of this book and see why I love it so much, you can go to bookbugkalamazoo.com or walk into the doors of the bookstore, check out the table full of new fiction books. It'll be up there. If you can't find it, you can always walk up to a bookseller and say, hey, I'm looking for a copy of Mexican Gothic. I am very glad to have gotten out of my reading slump, though I am surprised that it was with a book as creepy as this, but I'm grateful to be able to read again, and I was grateful to be able to experience this story in particular. Thanks for watching.